writing, from poetry to some other things as well, to monologues, to duologues. It's all going on. So first up, our first piece this afternoon is Guinevere, written by Sarah Parry, starring Jack Gay, Abby Evans, and Cheska Downs. Take the stage.
Just to preface this, right is a really bold word. It's a Tennyson poem that I have adapted. I've changed it around and made it into a play. I'm just going to fix Cheska's skirt. So it's basically the story of Guinevere, which, if you don't already know, Guinevere's had an affair with Lancelot. She's run away. She's caused a bit of a war. She's having a terrible time. She's currently in a nunnery. Abby is a nun, in case that's not obvious. Yeah, that's all you need to know.
Not that she gets typecast.
Definitely not.
Late, late, so late, and dark the night and chill. Late, late, so late, but we can enter still. Too late, she cannot enter now. No light had we, for that we do repent. And learning this, the bridegroom will relent. Too late, you cannot enter now. No light so late, and dark and chill the night. Oh, let us in, that we may find the light. Too late, you cannot enter now.
Oh, the end has come. And I am shamed forever. Oh, gods that could hide me from myself. The raven spies a field of death, for now the heathens of the northern sea, lured by the crimes and frailties of the court. They have slain the people and spoiled the land. With what a hate the people and the king must hate me with.
Have we not heard the bridegroom is so sweet? Oh, let us in, so late to kiss his feet.
Oh, maiden, if ye indeed
late,
need list to sing, oh, sing and unbind my heart to weep.
Oh, pray, noble lady, no more, but let my words, the words of one so small, who knowing nothing knows but to obey, and if I do not, there is penance given, comfort your sorrows. For I know they do not flow from evil done, right sure am I of that, who see your tender grace and stateliness. But weigh your sorrows with our Lord the King's, and where you find them less, for gone is he to wage grim war against Sir Lancelot there, round that strong castle where he holds the Queen, and Mordred, whom he left in charge of all, the traitor. Oh, sweet lady, the King's grief for his own self, and his own queen, and realm, must needs be thrice as great as any of ours, as even here they talk at Almesbury about the good king and his wicked queen. And were I such a king with such a queen, well might I wish to veil her wickedness, but were I such a king it could not be.
And must not I, if this false traitor displaced his lord, grieve with the common grief of all the realm?
Yeah. This is all woman's grief. That she is woman whose disloyal life hath wrought confusion in the table round. Yeah, but I know. The land was full of signs and wonders ere the coming of the wicked queen. So said my father, and himself was a knight of the great table at the founding of it. A wreath of airy dancers, hand in hand, swung round the lighted lanterns of the hall. And in the hall itself was such a feast as never man had dreamed, for every night had whatsoever meat he longed for served by hands unseen. And even as he said, down in the cellars, merry bloated things shouldered the spigot, straddling on the butts while the wine ran. So glad were spirits and men before the coming of the sinful queen.
Oh, were they so glad? They are ill prophets, all of them, spirits and men. or even thy father, could he not, with his wonders and signs, not tell the future of the realm?
Yeah. One, a bard, of whom my father said, full many a noble war song had he sung, so said my father. Could Arthur find a woman in her womanhood, as great as he was in his manhood, then he sang, the twain together well might change the world. But even in the middle of his song he faltered, and his hand fell from the harp, and pale he turned, and reeled, and would have fallen had they stayed him up. Nor would he tell his vision, but what doubt that he foresaw this evil work of Lancelot and the Queen.
Oh, they have set her upon me, the simple-seeming abbess and her nuns, to play upon me.
Sweet lady, check me too, if I seem to vex an ear too sad to listen to me, prattling the tales which my good father told me. Nor let me shame my father's memory, one of noblest manners, though himself would say Sir Lancelot had the noblest. And pray you check me if I seem amiss, but pray you which had noblest, while you moved among them? Lancelot, or our lord the king?
Sir Lancelot, as became a noble knight, was gracious to all ladies, and the same in open battle in the tilting field, he forbore his own advantage. But the king, in open battle and tilting field, forbore his own advantage. But they were the most nobly mannered two men. For manners are not idle, they are fruits of loyal nature and of noble mind.
Yeah. Be manners such fair fruit? Then Lancelot's needs must be 1,000-fold less noble, being, as all rumour runs, the most disloyal friend in all the world.
Oh, yes, nay. No, but shut in thy nunnery, what canst thou know of kings and tables round? Of what signs and wonders, but the signs and were simple miracles of thy nunnery. Know what thou knowest of the world? The lights and shadows, all the wealth and the woe. Now, if ever Lancelot, that most noble knight, were for 1 hour less noble than himself, pray for him, that he escape the tread of that fire, and weep for her that drew him to the doom.
Yeah. I pray for both. But if Lancelot were as noble as the king, you may well be the sinful queen herself.
Oh, as much as you've never been made and more. Oh, you harlot, you traitor, you get thee hence. That simple, fearful child meant nothing. Oh, it is your guilt that betrays itself. Yeah, heaven help me. If I do repent. I mean, what is repentance but in thought? And even in inmost thought, we do not think of the sins that made the past so pleasant to us. No, I have sworn never to see him more.
Who lies here so low? The child of one I honoured, happy, dead before thy shame. Well is it that no child is born of thee? The children born of thee are sword and fire, red ruin and the breaking up of laws of heathen swarming over the northern sea. Whom I? Oh yes, Sir Lancelot, my right arm, the mightiest of my knights abode with me. I've ever about this land of Christ, and 12 great battles ruining overthrown. I was first. Of all the kings who drew the knighthood herald of this realm and all the realms together under me. Their head in that fair order of my table round a glorious company. flower of men, to serve as a model for the mighty world, to be the fair beginning of time. Then came a shameful sin with Lancelot. Then came the sin of Tristan and Isolde and others. Following these, my mightiest knights, and drawing foul ensample from their names, sinned also. To the loathsome opposite of all my heart did destined to obtain, and all through thee. Knowest thou now from whence I come? From him. From waging bitter war with him, and he that did not shun to spite me in worse way, had yet the grace of courtesy in him left. He spared to lift his hand against the king who made him knight. Many a knight was slain, and many more. And all his kith and kin clave to him and abode in his own land. Many more when Mordred raised revolt. Forgetful of their troth and felt, he clave to Mordred. And the remnant stays with me. This friend whom I leave apart. True men who love me still for whom I live. To guard Venus, while thou art coming on. Lest but a head on thy low head beyond. Fear not. I shall be guarded till my death. Howbeit I know if ancient prophecies have erred not till I march to meet my doom. And thy bowers of Camelot or of us thy shadow still would glide from room to room. I should evermore be vexed with thee in hanging robe or vacant ornament or ghastly footfall echoing on the step. For think not thou wouldst not love thy Lord has wholly lost his love for thee. I am not made of such slight elements. I have not I come to urge thy crimes. I have not come to curse thee, Guinevere. I, whose vast pity almost makes me die. To see thee lying here, and thy golden head, thy pride of summer days at thy feet. And all is past. The sin is sinned. And I forgive thee. Eternal God forgives thee. Do thou thine own soul the rest. Yet must I leave thee to thy shame. Better the king's waste hearth and aching heart than thou, reseated in my place of light. The mockery of my people. My bane. How to take last evil I've loved. I cannot touch thy lips, they are not mine. But Lancelot, nay, they never were the king's. Guinevere, for I was never virgin save for thee. My love through flesh hath walked into my life, so far that my doom is. I love thee still. Let no man dream that I love thee still. Now must I hence. Through the thick night I hear the trumpet blow, they summon me, their king, to lead mine hosts. Far down to that great battle in the west, where I must strike against the Man, they call my sister's son. Struck him dead. And meet myself death, or I know not what mysterious doom. And thou remaining here wilt learn of the event. No hither shall I never come again. Never lie by thy side. See thee no more. Farewell.
Gone. The love's gone. Gone through my sin, to slay and to be slain. And yet, he forgave me. I couldn't answer him. Farewell. I should have answered his farewell, but his mercy choked me. Lord's gone. True Lord, wait. No, I shouldn't call him mine. I am in shadow of another cleave to me, and to make me of one pollution. I mean, the king called me polluted. Or should I kill myself? No. And what's the use in it? I cannot kill my sin if soul be soul. And yet by living I can't live it down. No, the weeks will turn into months, and months into years, and the years will roll into centuries. And my name will always be a name of scorn. I shouldn't think on what defeat of fame. You. So you know my true wicked nature. The one that took pride at the king and destroyed him. Shut me up in nunnery walls. Leave me with meek maidens that cool shame. Let me dress like you, dwell with you, wear black and white, be a nun like you, look after other sins, others' loathsome worries, and not think on mine own. And through alms deed prayers and somber days, just forget about. Please, please, you. Please. Yet too late.
Lovely jubbly. Nice. What do I want to say? That was amazing. Oh God, that was so good. Amazing. Our second piece tonight is The First Time I Heard the Words, written by Sophie Burton and performed by Shannon Timms Would you like to come and say anything, Sophie?
I don't really.
Stage is yours.
I don't really have a lot to say about this, to be honest. We'll see what happens, Shannon. I mean, yeah, it's as much as a surprise to me as it is to you, so good luck, Shannon.
It was always me and you. From that very first moment, you made me feel safe. From the first time you held me and I wrapped my tiny hand around your finger. First time I came home in tears because the girls over the road had called me names and I was hysterical. You got me into the car and drove me down the road to our favourite shop and you brought us donuts and a milkshake and then put music on and drove us around. We sang and we talked about the craziest things until I'd forgotten all about it. We drove through a part of town I'd never seen before and you told me it was called Timbuktu, the most exotic part of town that only a few people knew about it. Even then, I knew it was all a lie. We both played along. It was nothing special, but it was ours. You told me I had to tell my teacher about the girls, and you taught me that even if I was different from them, that was okay because different is exciting. I remember the first time that the tears weren't caused by arch enemies, and I learnt that friends aren't always forever. You couldn't fix the friendship, but you knew how to make me feel better. I remember the first time I called you my hero when you saved me from being hit by a car in the car park. It wasn't even doing 10 miles an hour and it probably would have stopped, but at the time you were Superman. You saved the day. I remember seeing you in the crowd when I won my first award. Your usual cheeky grin was replaced by a beaming smile and I could see the pride in your eyes. I remember wanting to make you feel like that forever. I remember coming home one day full of dreams, very expensive dreams of arts and music, but instead of dragging me back down to reality, you sent me soaring even higher. The first concert, you were right there in the audience. I remember your smile, the laughter in your eyes at the squeaking violins and screeching recorders. There was the first audition and the first rejection when I felt like everything I'd worked for was lost. You built me back up, you sat with me with the heartache, and you were my biggest supporter. You gave me the strength to carry on. I remember the primary school Victorian market. It was an indoor fete with costumes and stalls and games. I'd finished working on my class stall and came over to meet you. We got a jacket potato and it wasn't cooked very well. It was really dry and kind of solid, and the only thing they gave us to eat with it was a plastic fork. So when we tried to eat it, all we did was flick bits of potato everywhere, and we laughed. We laughed so hard, and we tried to conceal our smiles and sniggering as some other parrot got hit in the back of the head with a rogue piece of potato. That was the first time I'd laughed until I was crying, and my cheeks hurt from so much smiling. We went back every year and did exactly the same thing. They never thought to buy any knives. I don't remember the first time things started to go wrong. The first time you knew there was a problem. I wasn't there the first time they told you what it was, but I do remember what you told me. The first time I heard the words. You sat me down, you and Mum. We were in the living room in our old house, the red sofa in the corner and those awful curtains that didn't match any of the other colours. There was this DVD with puppets, Dan and Annie they were called. They tried to explain in child-friendly terms what it was and what was happening. I don't really remember what you said. The words are lost in time in an old cloud of memories, probably mushed up with GCSE biology and Pythagoras' theorem. But I do know that was the first time I knew what it was to be scared. Not just of spiders or monsters under the bed, it was the first time I was scared that my dad wasn't going to be around anymore. forgot how scared I was, so I can't imagine how frightening it must have been for you. In the early days it wasn't so bad. Well, I say not so bad, but it was terrifying, and at the time the changes seemed monumental, but compared to what came after, I guess it was pretty easy. You had to get a new car. It was the first time I had any idea about money. To me, something expensive was £20, and here we were at the dealership and you were spending thousands of pounds, and I was amazed. I thought we were rich. It was just a car. Now I know it was nothing special, we couldn't afford anything extravagant, but you had to get something that was semi-automatic for when you couldn't control everything yourself. I remember the first time I was angry at the state. I was young and I had no knowledge of anything, no concept of politics or feminism, never heard of socialism or conservatism. I knew nothing but the stupid woman who did your assessment at the disability benefit. You told her you used to run restaurants. She wrote down that you used to run. There were countless things that she twisted and misunderstood, and at the time they became inside jokes. You appealed their ruling. It got overturned eventually, but by that time, so quickly, everything had started to change. I wish I'd been there with you for some of your firsts. I have memories of them, but I know more of them took place without my knowledge. Your first MRI, the lumbar puncture, the speech and language therapist, the first time you lost control of your hands and smashed a plate of glasses, or the first time your legs gave way and you hit the ground. I remember the first time I witnessed them. I remember you falling in the street just outside the house and trying to help you get up. But we just had to sit there and wait until you had the energy to stand again. I sat down right next to you and we waited together. We learnt to adapt. The first time was always a curveball, but we always learned. There was the time you and Paula went to the food bank at some church, and as you pushed the door, you came crashing down in slow motion, and everyone around you came running around, concerned and shocked, and you and Paula just sat and laughed. There was our holiday to Ibiza, and we had such a good time. Everyone was worried how we'd cope, just me and you, but we did. We filled our faces at the buffet, and you would tell me what you wanted and I would go and get it, and we would drink hot chocolate and eat ice cream, and everything was normal. Until we went out of the hotel. You had wanted to buy me a present, and we thought we'd see if we could find some shops, so we walked, and I could see in your eyes that you were struggling. You were scared your legs would give up and there'd be nothing we could do. I held your hand to support you, and then we stepped together. Left, right, left, right. We made it back, and after at home, when things would go south, we'd just get through. Left and right. Our normal was better anyway. We shared so many firsts in the years that came. I ran my first charity stall, and you won your first award for your volunteer work. I remember the first time I heard you talk about helping people. You used to support the helpline for the district and would help people with newly diagnosis. The sense of passion and warmth in your voice was so magical, and you gave people the help that changed lives. I remember the first time I met the committee, and we came home joking about Ian. He really was a tosser. We made friends, such special friends who grew to love and cherish. The first time you used a mobility scooter and you and Phil went racing round Drayton Manor, or the first time you got your own and ran me into some poor lady's garden. At that point, we were almost thankful for some of the opportunities your diagnosis brought us, the difference we made, and the people we met. We did things no normal family did. And then came the first we didn't want. That first hospital trip that set the next few years in motion. It was my first day at sixth form. I had just finished and I was due to come over to see you after. I turned on my phone to call you and there was a voicemail. Hiya, it's only me. I'm just on the way to hospital at the minute, but don't worry, everything's fine. See you later. That was the first time I'd ever been speechless before. I remember every minute I tried to call you 5 times and got no answer. You'd stopped driving years ago after 1 too near misses with women walking their dogs, so it must have been Paula Paula must have driven you to the hospital. Maybe you'd gone in with her. But I called Paula. No answer. I texted her, and nothing. I tried your dad, and he was just as clueless as I was. I had no idea how you'd even got to the hospital unless... But you said everything was fine. He was on his way to pick me up, and then we were going to go to the hospital together to find you. I was pacing up and down over and over near Sainsbury's on the outside of one of the main roads. Paula had texted me and said she had no idea what I was talking about. I felt like I'd fallen into a TV drama that wasn't supposed to happen to real people. The drive to the hospital was a blur, and we ran into A&E to ask for you, and it was in the middle of a refurb, and the waiting room was small and claustrophobic. I felt my heart sink when they said you'd been brought in by ambulance. They had nothing else they could tell us until you got back from X-ray. So we sat. Your dad tried to ask me about how my day had been, what I thought of A-levels, and although I didn't want to talk, we both knew we needed to distract ourselves. We sat and talked for what felt like hours in deep conversation about literature, the latest party politics, taking over the news, and what we thought the weather had been awfully nice for September and how odd that was. For a moment, I think he forgot why we were there. I was increasingly restless. Why hadn't they told us anything yet? I'd been to reception half an hour ago and they'd told me they had nothing to say. I went back again and a new woman told me that you'd been back about an hour. I was seething, but that didn't matter. We rushed through to cubicle 4 and I didn't know what I was expecting to see, but I remember being terrified. We opened the curtain and there you were. You saw us and smiled and said, "I feel like an extra in Holby City." I was angry, confused, wanted answers, but in that moment we all gave in to that laughter. We let it take us somewhere else, somewhere better. I asked you what happened, you didn't really know. I reprimanded you for that bloody voicemail, and you laughed. You didn't want to worry me, apparently. I loved the ambulance ride. It was so fun, and they gave me drugs. We had tons of questions, and you had no answers until the nice doctor man came and explained you had broken your hip and they would have to operate. We stayed with you most of the night, laughing and talking, but you were in pain and I knew you were scared. The operation could risk aggravating your condition, but you pulled through. You were in for a few weeks. I remember visiting. They arranged for you to have carers for when you came back. They arranged for you to have carers. We were both scared of the first that followed, the first time you fell, and no matter how long we waited, you couldn't get back up. The first time that left, right wasn't enough to keep you going. Your heart broke the first time you asked me to feed you, and mine when I saw how ashamed you were at that first accident. When the buzz of helping people wasn't enough, and you screamed that you'd rather kill yourself than let this disease take you. The next morning was the first time I was scared to walk down the stairs, just in case what you said hadn't just been in the heat of the moment. Then that summer, first time we nearly lost you. You spent 10 weeks in hospital playing ward bingo. You weren't right, and I knew you weren't. They tried to tell me it was just natural progression of the illness, but I wasn't convinced. I knew you, and they said it could be meningitis. Then they thought it was something else, and they couldn't work out what it was, so they just wrote you off. I fought with your family. I fought with the nurses. I needed them to listen because something was wrong. You couldn't speak, and I didn't know if you could understand me, but I held your hand tightly, and I promised I would never give up on you and that you would be better. The neurologist proved me right. She said there was an infection underlying and that because you hadn't been eating since coming in, malnutrition was also in play. They put you on a feeding tube and that scared me. You swore you would never rely on tubes and machines because you said that wasn't a life. I worried you would give up because I could fight everyone else but I couldn't fight you. I brought you a little penguin keyring from the shop and I told you not to give up. And when they fitted the tube, you pulled it out. In fact, you pulled it out every few days and you claimed you didn't know what you were doing. Maybe you didn't, maybe it was subconscious, but I swear I saw that glint in your eye. We went through hell that summer, but we came out fighting, and although that was the first time, we know it probably won't be the last. You've had many shorter hospital stints since, but we've managed. It's a steady decline, but we adjust and we carry on. I'm scared of the first we have to come, but I'm more scared of the first we'll never get to have. You didn't get your dream of teaching me how to drive. I got my first boyfriend, and you never got to give him the protective father speech. I go to weddings and I try not to cry because I know you'll probably never walk me down the aisle, and you'll never embarrassing me with humiliating stories in a father of the bride speech. You probably won't be there to celebrate my graduation. You'll never help me move in and understand things like mortgages or insurance. You might never meet your first grandchild, and I blame it. I blame it for taking away these firsts from us because the ones it replaced it with just don't compare. First time I was terrified by an unknown caller in case it was bad news. I thought it was just a one-off, but a small part of me panics every time. First time I had a call from the hospital and the doctor started with pleasantries and checked if I was okay, and my heart stopped. And that feeling of dread chilled me to my core. The first time you cried and I knew you were scared you weren't going to make it. First time I left the hospital wondering if you'd still be there the next day. The first time I left for uni and we both cried and cried at your hospital bed, and it took all the strength I had to walk out that door and leave. The first family feuds over respect forms and power of attorney. And there's more to come. I'm scared of the day that the news is bad news and it's the worst news. First time I have to tell somebody what happened, or the first time I hear one of your songs and remember. First time we both have to stop fighting. We have had so many firsts, and although they weren't always what we wanted, I dread the day when some of our firsts become our lasts. First time I heard the words I didn't understand, although now I know what they mean, I know the science, I know the facts, I still don't understand why. But we don't let them define us, because you are more than those words, and you always will be. And no matter what, we will fight it together.
Oh, that was the first time I heard the words by Sophie Burton. That was really beautiful. Right, next up we have Cold Water, written by Jake Smith and performed by Friedrich Liese. If you'd like to come down, stand out. Would you like to say a few words, Jake?
I'll say a few words. Hello. Frederica, right. The play's called Cold Water. It's a short piece I wrote. I really hope that people enjoy it. Woo!
60-40. Trophy. Close, that's the deal we had. See, he was a jester. An expert, young, cunning. Real charisma. Some people were happy to give him change up to pound coins. You know, it's pound coins when you're like this, you just don't. God would consider doing more than I did, but still happy to give me something at the end of the day. So kind. Hopeful. Too hopeful. Our first winter, it seemed like we were a married couple. that the ice wouldn't thaw on the outskirts, so we headed into town. The roads were salted. 2 days before, his arm was bent backwards across a lamppost. Drunks. Hospital fixed it for a bit. Couldn't write out his medical forms. Utterly smashed. Smashed by the smashed strip back down to instinct. Animal. What they couldn't fix was his head. Big lump. So it must have been hit it on the pavement or something smashed over his head. One eye seriously out of whack, never the same. Lost his charisma, edge. Left to be half his old self. Less. Walked out into the cold one night. Water. Cold water, he muttered, frantically wrenching at the zip of his coat, and then ran. Fast. Couldn't keep up. Didn't come back, poor bastard. Alone, froze to death. Or should have. Night watchers. Those people that like litter pickers, but somehow even more righteous. Found me without a pulse. Throwing up cold water over me. Several buckets in mid-January. Saved my life. Not the volunteers, no. My attackers. So I was whisked away to hospital. And the doctors were amazed by my potential. My potential. The doctor with a long name requested some tests to be done on me because they thought I had some condition that might be of great use to someone. Wasn't exactly in decline, was I? Medical testing of some kind got me here. Should get me out. Once transferred to a concrete institution, the official looking lot showed me round. Food. Real food. Beds. Heaven. They could stick an eagle anywhere for this and I'd still be laughing. They certainly were. Dreamland, that's where it all. I think it's all about to go wrong, don't you? Don't you? Well, no. Not to me. Got a position. Proper job. It'd be dangerous, effectively a test job all for an Antarctic expedition. Training. Months of training, and then they introduced me to a crew. You must have seen those. I wouldn't call them freaks in the past. One of those those bare-chested men that can sit in near freezing water for hours. But then, before I learned how to slow my heart rate, fully equipped with some skill, some focus, they deemed me invaluable. Paid well, and respect. Well, because some idiots late that night, some cruel bastards who gave me a ticket to happiness. There are details of the exhibition which, well, they're good for when corporate dinner party lull sets in, but we're not even with those, are we? After filtering through institutions, hospitals, any records I could get my mitts on, I found my friend's name down in print. The bastard was in Aberdeen. Aber-bloody-Deen! I found some especially cold water and stayed, stuck around. Remembered me though. Altered state. You begged me for coin, asked me for victuals, crouched yourself down, offered yourself your... Stopped himself there though. So had some respect, clunking around up there. He was a part of the Tyrol family. Only accepted noodles. Plain noodles. Told me he was right about the cold water. It took the two of us. So I ushered out. They wanted to stop him from rubbing drool into his forehead. The nurse mimicked him. I don't deserve ice. Snow is the holy water of the modern age. Always been my friend's mantra.
Do lovely jubbly again. Lovely jubbly! That was cold water by Jason. Oh, it's lovely. Lovely. Penultimately now, we have 12,000 Minutes, written by Romilly Swinglove and performed by Lucy Eddington. Take the stage!
Yeah, this is just something that I wrote like last week when I couldn't get to sleep, so it's really short. But yes, the body is going to be amazing. So.
After spending hundreds of thousands of minutes here, I've become familiar with how we measure sound and time. 40 to 60 hours, that's how long it takes to go from being an acquaintance to casual friends. And then it takes another 80 to 100 hours to call someone a friend, and over 200 to call someone a best friend. Now that's 12,000 minutes. 12,000 minutes to spend with someone before they can earn the title of best friend.
Now, I'm sure if you're familiar with Rent, you'll be aware that there's 525,600 minutes in a year. And out of that, only 322,660 do we spend awake. Now, look, okay, I'm aware that's a lot of maths, but bear with me, there is a point, I promise. Look, what I'm trying to say is that, essentially, you've got 12,000 minutes to fit in, like, inside jokes, laughing until you cry, staying up until 2 a.m, just trading secrets that normally you'd be too scared to say out loud, just to apparently your best friend. But, well, I mean, contrary to the phrase that goes around playground, that doesn't always mean forever. I mean, of course, you're going to experience a hell of a lot of 12,000 minutes in your life, that's just basic maths. But, I mean, sometimes, I mean, as much as it pains me to admit, those 12,000 minutes might be all you get. Climb the mountain together, but you don't always get to enjoy the view for that long. And people drift. I mean, sometimes they come back, but more often than not, the wave that you never saw that brought them in is just as quick to take them out again. And all of a sudden, those 12,000 minutes suddenly feel sacred. You want to bottle them up and live them again just because you know that, I mean, you never can. Well, I'd like to say I've experienced a good few 12,000 minutes in my life. I mean, sometimes I've even got a few extra, but the beauty of them is that they're all so different. I mean, each one taught me new ways of looking at the world and made those 12,000 minutes a hell of a lot better had I experienced them on my own. Well, the thing when you measure things in time is that it's bound to run out. All that's left is to look back at those 12,000 minutes with fondness and hope that one day another will come along that might just last a little longer than the rest.
Oh, it's lovely. I don't know how to do hosting. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, it's lovely. Amazingly. So, our final piece of the afternoon is Motherland, written by Lucia Collado and performed by Aidan Russell. Woo!
I don't really have a lot to say about it. I feel like it'll be pretty self-explanatory, but I mean, if this is like triggering your inner like, oh man, I'm a man, feel free to like respond in that way. But you don't have to do
Can't edit me.
You don't need to heal your heart from the hand of a man. Yes, from your pain, we birthed cities, and yes, from your stream we drank when it was dry, from your anguish, the plants do still root, but from your shade, the girls learn to grow. Is that fair trade? Is anything fair? Your hands may be callous, but they did shape the world. I am a man. I can admit, hand on heart, that you are a forever seed. You can be reused, repurposed, replanted forever. Isn't that just a beautiful thought? You're indisposable. Your crops have been feeding us since the first sunrise rose. You are a vessel of beautiful sacrifice. A virgin with clipped wings. There's no rest for you. Your soul is too essential. And doesn't that make it all worth it? You sew the fabrics that veil a wedding, and you mourn the deaths of those you outlive. It's a noble reward for a small price of servitude. Women, you may be in pain. At the end of the day, you are pain. When your blood isn't pain between your thighs, then it's tears in your eyes. But nevertheless, we exist because of your suffering. The earth spins around your pain's axis. The earth needs your agony. We need your agony. We're family after all. We're your sons, your fathers. Please love us like before. Love us despite it all. Love us above it all. Love us more. I mean, we love you too. It's a deep type of love. You wouldn't get it. Maternal. Obsessive. Sensual. Conditional. Nothing like yours. Not in a bad way. I mean, we were meant to love in different languages. Just look back at the history pages. You love in whispers. And in small devoted songs. We love in complex form that you don't see, or you don't want to see, or you don't know how to see. But we love you. We need you. We worship you. We owe you. And we've always shown it. Like, when I ask you, woman, to rock me to sleep with your lullabies, or knit me a warm jumper with the thread of your life. You see it now? We need you. We worship you. We owe you. Oh. You still seem caught up on the whole pain thing. But you need to understand, women, that there's nothing short of beautiful in your pain. There is beauty in a wounded organ, poetry in a wasted life. The magnificence of a woman wronged only makes her stronger, tougher, a martyr. The kind of woman you learn from. The kind of woman who humbly owns all the answers, but asks for nothing in return. Not the kind of woman that you would marry, but the kind of women that birth the cities of the motherland. Actually, women, forget what I said before. Don't look back on the pages of history. It's all changed now. Everything is different now. Only the truth remains, which is that we still need you, and worship you, and owe you, and love you. You are so good. So good. Except when you're not, when you stray away from fate. I need you to teach me to be a better man. Teach me right from wrong. So good. This man-made world was built in the shadows by calloused women's hands. So keep building the cities for the motherland. You're so good at that. So good. I'm on your side. I know I've just said we're different, but in another way, we are the same. We are made of the same stuff. of my rib. I understand you. I am you. We are you. You don't need to heal your heart from the hand of a man.
That was I didn't even write that, that was just
Sorry, was I supposed to read what you gave?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm so glad Annabelle lined it up like that. Fantastic. So with that, that is the first section of our New Works Festival.